So let's talk about something that's quietly but dramatically changing the face of cities all over Mexico. We're talking about gentrification and its impact. Well, it shows up in some really surprising places. I mean, think about soaring rent prices, sure. But what if I told you it's even changing the spice level of your favorite salsa?
Okay, so picture this. You're at a taqueria in a neighborhood you've known forever, but now it's, kind of trendy. You go for the salsa, and something's different. It's milder? It's lost its kick? You have to wonder, right? Why on earth would that happen?
Well, that's because that salsa, it's not just about a new recipe. It's actually a clue. It's a tiny symptom of a huge economic and cultural shift that's literally changing the soul of these communities.
So, to really get a grip on what's going on, we need to talk about the one word that's at the heart of all this: gentrification.
Now, this isn't a new idea. The term was actually coined way back in the 1960s by a sociologist named Ruth Glass. She was looking at what was happening in London, seeing these middle-class families moving into working-class areas and, well, pushing the original folks out. So even though this feels like a very now problem in Mexico, the basic playbook, it's been around for a while.
And it's not some random thing that just happens. No, it's a process. It follows a pattern. It kicks off when investors spot an area with, potential. Maybe it's got a great location or cool architecture. Then the new wealthier residents start trickling in. That brings in money for new buildings, fancy cafes, boutique shops. You get the picture. And before you know it, the cost of everything skyrockets. And that's when you hit the final stage. The original community, the people who made the neighborhood what it was, they simply can't afford to live there anymore.
Okay, so that's the classic story of gentrification. But in Mexico's case, something happened just a few years ago that took this entire cycle and strapped a rocket to it. I'm talking, of course, about the COVID-19 pandemic. It completely flipped the script on how we work, right? All of a sudden, millions of people realized they could do their job from anywhere, as long as they had a laptop and Wi-Fi. This created a huge wave of what we call digital nomads. And where did a lot of them want to go? You guessed it, Mexico. I mean, it's got amazing culture, fantastic weather, and it was at the time really affordable. And we're not talking about a small trickle of people here. It was a flood. The number of digital nomads in Mexico has literally tripled since the pandemic began. And it's that massive, super fast influx of people that's been pouring gasoline on the fire of gentrification. So, what's at the core of all this? It really boils down to a massive income gap. Think about it. A remote worker earning in US dollars or euros has way more purchasing power than someone earning a local salary in pesos. So they can afford rents that are just, completely out of reach for local residents. And when that happens, the whole market just gets dragged upward. But here's where it gets really complicated, because this isn't a simple good versus bad story. For all the damage it can cause, gentrification is often seen as a real double-edged sword. It brings both opportunity and, well, a whole lot of pain. So on one side of the sword, you've got the promise, right? We're talking economic growth, shiny new buildings, improved roads, maybe some new jobs. But the other side of that sword, that's the price. And it's a steep one. Families getting pushed out, local businesses that have been there for generations having to close their doors, and this nagging feeling that the culture, the very vibe of the place, is just disappearing. And you can see why that promise side is so tempting, especially for governments. I mean, look at this number right here. In just 1 year, 2022, digital nomads and tourists pumped over 9 billion pesos into Mexico City alone. That's about $500 million US dollars. When you see a number like that, it's a huge incentive to just keep the doors open. But the fallout from this isn't just about money and rent. It goes deeper. There's this other, maybe more painful impact called symbolic displacement. That's a fancy way of saying you start to feel like a tourist in your own neighborhood, a stranger in your own home. And this is where we come full circle, right back to that salsa we were talking about. This quote just says it all. You have these recipes, these traditions that are so core to the local culture, like a spicy salsa, and they're being literally watered down to cater to foreign tastes. It might seem like a small thing, but it signals a much bigger loss of identity. Or take this example that went viral. In Mazatlan, which is basically the birthplace of banda music, hotels were trying to get the music banned from the beaches. Why? Because some tourists complained that it was just noise. Can you believe that?
The very sound that defines a place is suddenly seen as a nuisance, all because it doesn't fit what visitors expect.
So, all of this really leads to the biggest question of all, doesn't it? When a place changes this fast, you have to ask who's really winning here? And more importantly, who's losing? And if you're going to talk about winners and losers, you absolutely have to talk about one company that's right in the middle of this whole thing: Airbnb. Its platform is, without a doubt, a huge player in this story. So let's break it down with some numbers from 2022. It's simple, really. A landlord can make a lot more money renting an apartment out for a few nights to tourists on Airbnb than they can renting it for a full year to a local family. So what happens? You get over 50,000 properties listed for short-term stays, which is linked to about 4,000 evictions of local tenants. And at the same time, the platform is generating over $1 billion for the economy. It is the perfect digital example of that double-edged sword.
As you can imagine, this has led to a major backlash from local communities. People are angry. The first big anti-gentrification march happened in Mexico City, and protesters held up signs with incredibly powerful slogans like this one. It just shows you how deep the feeling goes, that this isn't just about economics anymore. To many, it feels like a modern form of colonization, a takeover of their home.
Okay, so we've looked at the money, the cultural clashes, the human side of it all. And it really leaves us with one big final question. The real challenge here probably isn't about trying to stop change altogether. That's almost impossible. It's about how you manage it. How can a city take advantage of all this new money and investment without completely wiping out the culture and the communities that made it such a special place to begin with? And really, that's the question we want to leave you with. This is not a simple good guy, bad guy situation. It's a messy, complicated tangle of progress, profit, and real human pain. So as our cities keep changing, it's on all of us to keep asking the hard questions. Who is all this progress really for? And what,